right, back with another trip. FSD 12.6.4. Still doing it. Still getting out here. Have a pretty quick, semi-quick trip. Doing a little city highway mix, and again, we do these things just to check in, see how things have been lately with FSD. We're coming off of a significant thunderstorm last night with hurricane type winds. I was gonna go for a drive last night, but it got pretty bad. I decided against that drive, one, because it did actually end up hailing. There were winds up to 75, 80 miles an hour. It was all bad. So there's a lot of debris on the road now. And yeah, it's just a unique situation there that didn't want to be a part of that. So I'm getting out today. But yeah, we are back in the driver's seat here, seeing if there's any variances from our last run, any issues to present. First turn, left turn, nice and solid, no issues there. For those that have been following, that's been a pretty consistent turn overall. No issues to report in a while. Before, that used to be a painful turn, to say the least. A lot of jerkiness, a lot of just sporadic action. So much better with that turn there. We're coming to a left turn, but this is a yield turn. So this is always interesting to see how this reacts. On some yield turns, I do have to nudge, which again, we're gonna give it a little bit, but I may need to nudge. I'm gonna nudge and just go because you play it too safe, you'll be there forever. So I nudged on that turn for the sake of time. And do I think it eventually it would have gone? Sure, but we weren't going to sit there to find out. So that does happen. Is it a knock necessarily? No. To me, that's not a knock. It's not a strike. It's nothing that would be a negative, just because you want to ensure the safest route is being taken possible. So when you get into those yielding lights, sometimes you are running a risk of whoever's on the other end speeding up last minute or anything, right? So for me, no, it's sitting there and me having to nudge it really isn't a big deal. It just happens. All right. Here we go, back at it. Pretty good day overall. Pretty clear, so it's always good. Trying to assess here. What needs to happen? Speed's been great. No issues that I can report. I've been doing a good amount of driving with FSD just off camera. I know it's not as exciting with FSD, knowing that we've been on essentially the same build for a while now. But for me, again, I look at it as how successful are my day-to-day trips, right? Like, am I able to go from point A to point B in my regular weekly trip schedule without issue? For the majority, for me, is yes. When I say the majority, that other part where it's like, why isn't it 100%? I can tell you why. Potholes are still a thing. And I don't know if that's any better with hardware 4. What I've heard is it's not. It's better than hardware 3, but it's not a resolved issue. So with potholes, uneven roads, a lot of uneven roads around here, a lot of potholes, you have to take over. It's just something it's not picking up. And I don't want to risk damage to the vehicle that I have to shell out and pay due to it just not seeing potholes or uneven roads, right? That's been my only major, issue in giving anything, involving FSD 100%. Outside of that, though, I mean, at least 90% of my rides, up to 95%, it's no issue. So for me, that works. Others, it may be a different situation, or they may be looking for perfection, which, again, I've said this in several videos. Looking for perfection in technology, it's a gamble. I would advise against perfection in technology. There's typically something that will go wrong at some point, but for me and the experience of FSD, riding around, it's been good. It's been good. So, I had an individual ask as far as them purchasing a Tesla with software, hardware 3, hardware, and, my thoughts versus hardware 4. And again, I've been able to drive a hardware 4 vehicle. Definitely a difference, definitely better, but that gap isn't as large as what's portrayed for me in my area, in my routes, and how I like to ride around, right? Excuse me. The majority of this stuff is subjective. Again, there's folks that, will say they can't stand it. They can't stand FSD. Like, it never works for them. A single trip, there's something that always goes critically wrong on every single trip. I see the comments and I'm just like, that's unfortunate, because that's not my experience. Coming to a full stop and then we creep. For those that are new to FSD, that may be a gripe, but it's the law, right? The law states you're supposed to come to a complete stop before then inching out and proceeding to make any said turn or, movement. And I think naturally folks are just used to rolling turns and all that good stuff. But yeah, anyway, how FSD drives and responds and things, a lot of it's subjective. Some, not all people drive the same. So I don't think there'll ever be a sense or an area of perfection that you can just lean on and say, hey, yeah, this is it. That being said, for the community of us that have been utilizing FSD for years now and seeing the progression, for me, that's the most exciting part, right? To see where it started and being nothing like it is now, that's big time. And doesn't matter if you're brand new coming from hardware, going into hardware 3 or hardware 4. I think it'll be something that'll stand out if it's your first time using FSD. Even if it's on hardware 3, I think you would be overall impressed. You may not rely on it every single day. You may not see it as a thing that you would swear by, right? But I would assume most folks would be impressed. So yeah, coming into this highway here on the on-ramp, no issues, pretty smooth, well, really smooth. We gotta talk through that whole on-ramp, so yeah, no issues there. Speed is relative to the flow of traffic. I am on hurry mode. I do have the standard 40% offset set. So we're going about 76, not too bad. Again, relative with the flow of traffic. And now we're just cruising. So this is the ideal situation or measures that you would use FSD for. On the highway, I think at city two for sure, but the highway is just effortless. I think the majority of folks that utilize FSD and even to a certain degree say that it's not ready, it doesn't work. I think most folks can agree on the highway at least, it's a game changer. One, being able to switch lanes, and then being able to exit the off-ramp, enter an on-ramp. I think that's big time. Big time for road trips, big time for short trips. It's something that I think will eventually be adopted by other vehicle manufacturers. They are now, especially on the highway. GM, Super Cruise, Ford has a version Blue Cruise maybe, I don't know. Lucid, Rivian, all coming out with their own. I think it'll be certainly something we'll be looking at closely in the next 5 to 10 years to see who comes as close to perfection amongst the public as possible. For me, clearly right now, Tesla has a lead in that. Full self-driving, automation. They've been leading the way for a while. You do have some competitors for sure. I think GM is definitely one with the Super Cruise feature. I've had a chance to check that out on the Hummer that they have, the Hummer EV. And definitely a game changer too for them. So hopefully other folks will start adopting to that. And really, y'all, really that's what we want. We want more automated vehicles on the road consistently. The more automated vehicles you get on the road, safety goes up. for sure. Now, the folks that just genuinely enjoy to drive like myself, you still want that manual function for sure. You still want to be able to take over at any point and do your thing. Absolutely. That's why I'm in no rush with the unsupervised version. I think it'd be cool to toggle every now and then, and maybe get a bite to eat, look at your phone for a bit, do some work, for sure. But at the same time, I genuinely like to drive, so I like to be able to navigate, maneuver throughout streets and highways. So the supervised version is a sweet spot for me anyway. But again, unsupervised comes out, it's safe, right? I'm definitely going to utilize it. But yeah, I think we're in a good spot. I think we're in a Sorry about that. Lost my mic for a second. I think we're in a good spot overall with where FSD is at. Obviously, they're prioritizing unsupervised with the Robo taxis. You got to do that. I think that's super important. It's just a small subset of us that are utilizing FSD at this moment. So getting Robo taxi right really just puts more eyes on the features and the functions that'll then drive those additional resources and funding and everything else toward perfecting FSD. So I know a lot of folks on the blog, stuff like that, blogs, Reddits, other social media platforms. It's just like, I don't see it working. And it's like, for me, I definitely see it working. I think it's one of those things where if Tesla doesn't do it, someone else is going to push autonomy forward. It's just the race to see who's first. So I think Tesla has a good grasp of what it takes. You have a community of folks such as myself, a bunch of others that are committed to doing the test drives, reporting things that may be off, right? That improves the functionality of FSD. I think that makes a difference too. So it's truly one of those things where we're not just reporting our findings for ourselves, whatever, it's for everyone, literally, Maybe my one blunder or mistake that happens while utilizing FSD may save time for everyone, right? So yeah, that's my overall outlook on that. But we're still driving. Again, y'all, this is the piece about FSD, where it's at now, and then where we can imagine it'll be again 5-10 years from now. There's been no hiccup at all in this drive. I can simply sit back, talk to you all, and really not focus as much on the driving piece. Again, this is supervised, so I'm paying attention. I'm looking around my surroundings for sure, but to be able to kind of sit back and just, in a sense, be chauffeured, that's the game changer there. So the map, I have less than about 10 minutes left, so this This should go pretty quickly. We have some traffic that's typically a part of this transition coming in. Speed again, we're on a good path. 76 and a 70. Again, going with the flow of traffic, we're right there. So we're not doing anything crazy. There is a truck behind us that, depending on that flow of traffic, we may decide to move into this lane for them. They decide to go around us. We're doing essentially 80 and 70, so I you know, they clearly have somewhere they need to be, which is fine. But we're great on speed. The speed now that we're at is my typical style of driving. So again, we're just moving, we're just grooving with the flow of traffic. So no issues there on my end with that. Again, in this hurry mode too, we're going to continue to stay in this far left lane, this faster lane, because that's what hurry mode is. Now, again, if it was a standard mode or maybe even chill mode, we may stay in this middle or middle to right lane. But for me, that's not how I drive. So I don't really explore those functions. At one point when I was making videos, I would tell folks, hey, you know, if you want me to drop it down to another version, standard comfort mode, I don't have a problem. And I still don't technically, but I'm a hurry person, so you know, that's just what it is. Okay, so again, looking good. Sun's starting to peek out again. What I have been testing is I typically have my hat and sunglasses on. Right now, I don't have any sunglasses on, and my hat is backwards, just for the sake of the video and making sure that FSD is consistent in the experience. Again, for those that may not be aware, there's an active monitoring system that was implemented fairly recently across the board, in which FSD utilizes a cabin camera to ensure that drivers paying attention, things of that nature, and which ultimately extends or maximizes the ability for the driver to just pay attention and monitor without having to nudge the steering wheel or take any action to say, hey, FSD, I'm paying attention. No, the cabin camera is being used so they can look at me now, know that I'm paying attention, and just do the drive. And again, that's been, I believe, the biggest overall upgrade or function upgrade is that active monitoring. At one point, you could have FSD. It didn't matter though. They would still have you nudge the wheel every so often to ensure that you're paying attention. That is no longer. So again, for newer folks, perfect example. I was driving this vehicle back. It's like a 2-3 hour drive when I first picked it up, and I was able to go for a very long time. And this was still, again, when they first kind of implemented the active monitoring, but I went at least for 2 hours without intervention. So definitely a game changer. Okay, here we go. Coming down our final couple minutes here. We're gonna merge over here to this right lane because our turn is coming up pretty soon. Letting this vehicle over, don't know what he was doing. Go. Road's a little bit rougher over here. Again, coming to that complete stop, then easing out, making sure it's safe, and there we go. Now, one thing that I believe is apparent across all vehicles, hardware 3 or hardware 4, but is a bit better from what I've heard in hardware 4, is direct sunlight. And this has always been a trying situation for some, including myself. I've had several videos in the past that I've documented. And if there's a point where any one of the cameras is picking up consistent direct sunlight, which essentially blocks the ability to be able to see crucial surroundings, then it'll immediately beep and ask the driver to take over, right? And makes total sense. I don't think there's anyone that would say, hey, no, just guess, or, just figure it out. It's like, no, if there's something that you feel we should take over, then for sure. But I think direct sunlight is always going to be a situation in some case across the board for a lot of folks. So I think that's one piece there that seems like it's getting better, but will need to be better overall in order to get that full self-driving piece unsupervised all the way together, and then just continuing to build confidence in consumers when looking at Tesla for that autonomy piece and full self-driving piece. So more to come there. Overall though, excellent drive, no issues that I can report. We're pulling up on our destination now. Solid left, going into a right. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out, let me know. Otherwise, we'll catch up next time. All right, thank you.